nobody can dispute the value of organic matter when it comes to growing veg. This stuff is the fount of all goodness. Wonderfully succulent, almost like fruitcake, holds onto moisture like a sponge when it's in the soil, but the time to get it in is in autumn, so that it can break down slightly during the winter, and when it comes to sowing time, all that goodness and that moisture retentive capacity will be there to enable your vegetables to grow a darn sight better. If rich soil is the first secret of success, then the second secret has to be timing. It's not worth putting little delicate seeds into the ground when it's cold, when it's wet, when it's inhospitable. The old gardeners used to do several tricks. They'd see, first of all, when weed seeds were beginning to germinate in spring, and then they'd regard the soil as being warm enough. If they weren't sure, they'd do the test that you used to do with baby and bathwater. Just see if it feels warm to your elbow, and in extreme cases, and quite a few years ago, and I never used it, is to drop your trousers and sit with your naked bottom on the soil. And if you go, oh, that's cold, it's too cold for seeds, I think perhaps the elbow is preferable. And then when it comes to sowing your crops, only sow it in quantities that you can use it. Lettuce, for instance, there's a great temptation to sow an entire 20-foot row. Well, unless you're a family of rabbits, you don't need that many. Sow 3 feet a row at a time. Taut line between 2 sticks, stand on it with your feet to keep it firm, and then with the corner of a Dutch hoe, lightly flick out the earth alongside the line, your feet keeping it taut as you go. Now that will do about 1 yard or 1 metre for one sowing. The depth of the drill depends on the size of the seed. That's about 1/4 to 1/2 inch deep, which is absolutely fine for lettuces. Tip them into your hand and then take a pinch and just lightly trickle them in. Ideally, you're trying to let the seeds fall about 1/2 inch apart if you can. That way they won't be quite so competitive when they start to germinate. Put the rest back in the packet quite carefully and then flick over the drill with your fingers, and there they are sown. Now, if the soil is very much on the dry side, there's another trick you can use. When you've taken your drill out with the side of the hoe, like that, you can use a watering can to run along the bottom of that drill. Now, this is far better than trying to water the seeds in once they've been sown, because you displace them. You can now sow your seeds on the top of that. They're in contact with the moisture, and when you flick, the dry soil will absorb the moisture and keep them snug. Of course, there are various old wives' tales for different crops. Parsley, for instance, always sow it on Good Friday. That's the only time it doesn't go 9 times to the devil before it germinates. And the other thing about being able to grow good parsley is that they say the wife wears the trousers if it comes up well. No comment.